if I happen to lose my job or lose all my clients, I can replace that. But if I happen to lose my mother and father tomorrow, they are irreplaceable. I may or may have not wasted my entire 30s, and we'll come to that conclusion by the end of this video. Now, this video, I'm making it with this mindset in mind. After I make it, after I publish it here on YouTube, automatically we're going to go back 5 or 10 years in time. And my younger, motivated, driven, self-improvement, self-development orientated version of myself, who every day saw out self-development information here on YouTube, was going to happen to stumble upon this video from his future self and be shocked to see his older looking self saying, listen to me, I have a number of lessons that I have learned and mistakes that I have made that I want to share with you so you can avoid them and be better, as opposed to striving to do better. Big distinction between the two, which we'll get into in a moment. Now, unfortunately, that's not the way life works. You can't go back in time. We can psychologically and learn from our mistakes and apply the lessons to the present. But I'm really making this video to generally appeal to young people who are getting sucked into hustle culture, who are willing to abandon the important areas of their life at the expense of proving to themselves and to others that they can be successful. And then, like myself, 10 years later, or even 20 years later, or even when they're 50, coming to the realization that I have wasted a large portion of my life focusing on something that I do value, but do not value more than the areas that I abandoned for the sake of this. Now, while I am targeting it towards a younger generation, there's lots of people who are in their 30s, in their 40s, in their 50s, and even in their 60s, who are also sucked up in hustle culture, who may benefit from this video. So there's a number of things that I have learned, and this video might be a little bit all over the place. I'm having a general conversation like I would if you were sitting here in front of me. So just bear with me. Maybe grab a cup of tea, a biscuit, random, if you like biscuits, I don't know, whatever it may be, but just listen, please, to what I have to say. So just a little bit of a backstory for context. So I grew up in a working class area here in Dublin's fair city. Like a lot of young people from working class areas, I got sucked into drug culture at a very early age, 13 years of age, I think I was. Not long after I began to take drugs. Not long after that, I began to abuse drugs. Not long after that, I began to have multiple drug-induced psychotic episodes and run-ins with the loss. So by the time I was 17, I was put on risperidone, which is an antipsychotic medication, which I believed I'd have to take for my life. Long story short, by the grace of a power higher than anything on this earth, my family was offered a home out of the area in which I grew up in. Now, my mother and father are great people. Like, they're really decent, hard-working people. And the trouble that I brought onto them, they didn't deserve that. They deserved better. And I didn't want to bring that trouble with me to their new home and new life. So I decided to change my ways. Luckily, at the time, I came to a realisation that was my way of thinking that brought me to where I was at that particular moment within my life. And I knew that if I continued to think that way, I would continue to go that way. And that direction that I was going was scary and it wasn't long lasting. So I knew to change direction, I had to change the way I thought, but I didn't know how to do that. So I started looking on YouTube and stuff, learning, and I began to psychoeducate myself. So looking into psychology and stuff like that, and it sucked me right in, I have to tell you. But at the same time, I began to work out and exercise. I was a bit lost, so I had to restart my whole life. I left most of my friends behind. I loved them, but I had to love them from a distance. I was basically like a baby starting fresh in life. I failed my junior cert, I had no leaving cert. I thought I'd no job prospects at the time, so I was basically lost. So I started exercising and learning about my mind to fill the void, while simultaneously kind of help me get on track and stay on track. Long story short, a couple of years after that, I went back to do the equivalent of my leaving cert. One of the modules was personal training. I fell in love and I was like, right, I've never worked a real job in my life. I've made money. I've been a hustler since I'm a kid, basically. But yes, I was like, right, I'm going to set up a personal training business. I did that. A couple of years after that, so 3.5 years ago, I went back to higher education to do a degree in psychotherapy. So I'm a trainee psychotherapist at the moment. And I went 30 a couple of months ago, right? And as I was when I reached 29, I came to a realisation that, Alan, all throughout your 20s, you felt as if you were going to live forever, that you were going to stay young, stay within your 20s forever. But within the blink of an eye, I turned 30. I began to notice I'm getting grey hairs. I'm beginning to look a little bit tired within the face. It was like, Jesus, I'm getting old, right? And what came with that was, I've no regrets, but a gut feeling that I'd my ladder up against the wrong wall for the whole of my 20s. So I have been climbing the ladder of success, trying to do better professionally, to prove to myself and to others that I can be something. I had my ladder up against that wall, and I abandoned, for the sake of climbing that ladder of success, I abandoned other walls that provided more value to me than that wall. So friendships, I abandoned all my friendships. My friends used to ring me, ask me, do you want to come out, meet up, blah, blah, blah. I was like, I can't. I'm busy with work. They stopped ringing to ask. So my relationships in that regard went by the wayside. I value friendship more than I value building a career for myself. What's the point in being a multi-millionaire? Not nowhere near a millionaire, never mind a multi-millionaire. But what's the point in doing well financially without having people to connect with and to live life with, you know? So it's like, I value friendship a lot more than building a business or being successful, whatever that may mean. Intimate relationships, I've basically ruined all of my intimate relationships over the course of my 20s for the simple reason that I wanted to do better. I prioritise stupid stuff like making a video like this. Now, this isn't stupid because there's lots of lessons to be learned in it, but I have made many stupid videos over the years. Stupid videos that I believe there might be someone at my door. But yeah, like, I've spent a lot of time like making a silly video on Instagram when I could have been present with my partner. And like, even a number of years ago, I was basically had my own family and for a number of years. And while at the time I did really value that and I really did care about it, in hindsight, I could have been more present. I could have asked myself, what is more important, sitting here and being present, having a bit of fun, or scrolling through the internet to try and find ideas to make for the video and stuff, you know? Like, it's kind of idiotic stuff, but everything basically withered away over time. And then when I got into my late 20s, it was like, you had intended to work your ass off all throughout your 20s, and roughly at about 27 you could begin to kind of slow down, and then when you got to 30, your partner would be pregnant, you'd begin to kind of settle down and kind of start raising a family and stuff like that. And by the time I got to 29, it's like, Alan, all your relationships have withered away. Yes, you have built yourself up in terms of being a personal trainer, running your own business, also being a psychotherapist, which is brilliant, but at the expense of all these other things. You know, a client of mine said something to me about a year and a half ago. This client, she's like a mentor in ways, like, I've learned so much from her over the years in terms of kind of helping me with college and just kind of giving general advice and stuff like that. Very, very wise person. But as she was leaving the session, she said to me, Alan, on your deathbed, you're not going to be thinking about and regretting not taking on an extra client in the evening time so you could spend time with your family. The regrets you'll be thinking about will be taking on extra clients at the expense of not being present with the people that you cared about. It's like, oh, Jesus, that hit me hard, you know, like that. And that really hit the nail on the head for me. That was how I was living. But by the time I got to my late 20s, every area of my life was basically had withered away, you know. So doing versus being. Prioritise being a better person as opposed to doing better. And strangely enough, when you prioritise being a better person, you are going to do better financially or in your professional area of your life. Because if you fail to be a better person, the person that you are will wither away. And you can only do so much from pouring from an empty cup in terms of kind of doing better. You know, you get burnt out quite quickly. You get your resilience even decreases. It's like you become less resilient to obstacles and stuff like that, you know. So yeah, when I started out, as I was kind of saying earlier, I began to kind of self-develop and self-improve. So I was focused on being better long before I started to build a business for myself. I was meditating every day, journaling, practicing gratitude. I'm not religious or anything, but I felt connected to a power that was higher than myself. And I felt a way that I never felt within my life. I can't describe the feeling that I was experiencing almost every single day, until I began to get sucked into hustle culture and began to focus on doing better financially, professionally, career-wise. And the more I began to do better in that regard, the less time I had to put into being a better person. And as a result of abandoning myself, my way of being, every other area was impacted as a result. All the areas that I actually value 10 times more than I do my professional life, areas that are irreplaceable. So my mother and father, for example, I could choose to spend this evening being present with them, or I could choose to focus on my work instead. If I happen to lose my job or lose all my clients, I can replace that. But if I happen to lose my mother and father tomorrow, they are irreplaceable, you know. So I began to focus less on the irreplaceable things that provided me more value and focus more on things that in the grand scheme of things aren't all too important, you know. So that's basically that. And one final thing, travel if you can. If you're still in your 20s, I can still travel now, and I may do so when I finish college in a couple of months, but I'm not too sure. But basically, I always had this drive. Something within me was telling me, go traveling. You can really start building your business when you're 30. Just live in your 20s. Something regularly told me that. I didn't listen to it. And I don't have any regrets, but if I could do differently, go back and do differently, I would travel. So if you have that little underlying itch to travel, listen to it. You can build a business or build your career in your late 20s, in your 30s. There's people that start businesses in their 50s. If you go onto TikTok, you'll see a grandmother or a grandfather making videos and making a lot of money. You know, those people probably can't travel the world. Maybe they can. So yeah, that's one thing as well. And one thing as well, friendship and intimate relationships. Very, very important. Like really, really important. Prioritize those things over your career. And if you do that, you will find satisfaction in whatever career you happen to fall into. But if you fall into a career that you're satisfied with, but you abandon intimate relationships, close connections, friendships and stuff like that, over time you will begin to feel dissatisfied holistically with your life, including your career, you know. So that's basically that. Be sure to subscribe to me if you resonate with anything that I have said there, or drop me a comment. Wait, actually, we didn't come to the conclusion. Did I waste my 20s? No, I didn't waste my 20s. I had a lot of satisfaction. I had a lot of great times over the course of my 20s. But my 20s would have been wasted, and maybe even my 30s, had I not have came to all the realizations that I've discussed within this video. And thankfully, I have been gradually and slowly began to apply the lessons that I've learned. Anyways.